Witold Pilecki, Part I, The Volunteer for Hell, Warsaw, 1940. The city was bruised, houses lay broken as if crushed by a giant's fist, streets were empty except for soldiers marching under black flags. The Polish resistance moved through the ruins like shadows, quick, careful, unseen. At a small table in a hidden room, a man studied a map by candlelight. His name was Witold Pilecki, tall, strong, sharp-eyed. A Polish cavalry officer with the face of a teacher and the courage of a lion. A resistance commander whispered, "Witold, the Germans built a camp near Auschwitz. Prisoners vanish inside. No information escapes. We need someone to go in." Witold looked up calmly. "You want someone to enter the camp?" "No," the commander said softly. "We want someone to be captured and sent there. We need to know what they're doing, what they're hiding. We need a report." Witold placed his hands on the table. "I will go." The commander stared at him. "Pilecki, you don't understand. No one comes out of that place. Ever." Witold stood. "Then I will be the first." 1. The arrest to enter Auschwitz. Witold had to become a prisoner. On a quiet morning in September 1940, he walked into the streets of Warsaw with forged papers. Gestapo agents shouted orders. Civilians were herded like cattle. Witold stepped deliberately into the middle of a raid. A soldier grabbed him. "You." "Papers." Witold offered the fake documents, his hands steady. The officer sneered, "Suspicious. Take him." They beat him, tied his wrists, and shoved him into a crowded truck. A prisoner next to him whispered, "Why did you get caught?" Witold answered quietly, "I volunteered." The men blinked, confused. Witold smiled faintly, "You'll understand. One day." 2. The gates of hell. After days in overcrowded cells, prisoners were forced onto a train, packed so tightly they could barely breathe. Hours later, the doors slammed open. Cold air, shouting guards, dogs barking, smoke drifting from tall chimneys, and above the gate, a phrase burned into iron, "Arbeit macht frei." Witold stepped onto the ground of Auschwitz, the most lethal machine of death the world has ever known. A German officer marched down the line. "You are no longer humans," he barked, "you are numbers." Witold's number was tattooed onto his arm, 4859. The number that was supposed to erase his name, but Witold Pilecki was not so easily erased. 3. The underground awakens inside the camp. Horror was everywhere, starving bodies, silent screams, beatings, executions, smoke rising from chimneys that never stopped. But Witold did not break. He watched, listened, learned, and slowly, quietly, he built something unimaginable inside a place designed to crush souls, the first underground resistance network inside Auschwitz. He recruited prisoners, men who had lost everything except the will to fight. In whispered meetings behind barracks, Witold said, "One day, we will not escape. We will liberate this place from within." Prisoners stared at him in disbelief. "No one has ever escaped Auschwitz," one whispered. Witold smiled, "Then we will be first." 4. Reports written in blood. Every week, Witold gathered impossible information, numbers of the dead camp structure, guard movement, serially evidence of gas chambers, brutality beyond imagination. He smuggled the reports out through escaped prisoners and resistance contacts. His documents were the first eyewitness intelligence about Auschwitz sent to Allied governments. The world now knew, but they did nothing. Witold felt rage boil inside him. "How many must die," he whispered, "before the world believes us?" He pushed harder. 5. The impossible escape plan. By 1943, after nearly 3 years inside Auschwitz, a miracle in itself, Witold realized something. No uprising could succeed. Weapons were scarce, prisoners were starving, Allied forces were far away, but he had gathered enough intelligence to expose the Nazi killing machine forever. He needed to escape. 1 bitter night, Witold and 2 companions overpowered a guard, cut the wires of the perimeter, and ran into the darkness. Bullets ripped through the air, alarms blared, searchlights swung like angry gods, but Witold kept running. The cold cut into his lungs, branches slashed his face, dogs barked behind him, and then, silence. He had made it. Witold Pilecki had become one of the only people in history to voluntarily enter Auschwitz and escape alive. Witold Pilecki, Part 2. The men who escaped the impossible. April 1943. The Polish countryside lay silent under a moonlit sky. Witold Pilecki, half-starved and exhausted, stumbled into a farmhouse yard. collapsing at the doorstep. A Polish farmer opened the door, lantern trembling in his hand. When he saw Witold's gaunt face and prisoner uniform, he gasped, "Mother of God, where did you come from?" Witold looked up with a faint smile of triumph and suffering. "Auschwitz." The farmer froze. No one escaped Auschwitz. No one lived that long inside it. The man knelt beside him. "Are you real?" Witold answered, "Too real." The farmer pulled him inside. Witold slept for 24 hours. 1. The world does not want to hear. When he finally regained strength, Witold traveled to Warsaw, entering a secret resistance safe house. He placed his handwritten reports on the table, documents smuggled from hell. The resistance leaders gathered, reading in silence descriptions of gas chambers disguised as showers, crematoria burning day and night, starvation, torture, medical experiments, mass executions, transports arriving and never leaving. Gone commander whispered with shaking hands, "Oh God, we knew it was bad, but this is industrial killing." They sent Witold's report to London through underground channels. Finally, the world knew the truth. Or so Witold believed. Weeks passed, then months. No Allied bombing of Auschwitz. No rescue attempt. No global outrage. Witold pounded his fist on the table. Why does no one listen? Thousands die every day. A resistance leader sighed. Pilecki, the Allies say your reports are too unbelievable. Witold stared at him. Too unbelievable. I lived it. He felt something inside him break, not hope, but trust. 2. The Warsaw Uprising. In 1944, the Polish resistance launched the Warsaw Uprising, a desperate attempt to break free before the Soviet army arrived. Witold joined immediately. When he entered Warsaw, he saw flames licking the sky, Germans retreating street by street, insurgents fighting with homemade grenades. He felt alive again, not because of war, but because, at last, he could fight openly. He led a unit in the North Group, engaging in brutal street battles. Bullets sliced the air, buildings collapsed, every corner was death. A young insurgent asked him, "Captain Pilecki, do we have a chance?" Witold rested a hand on his shoulder. "We always have a chance until we stop fighting." For 63 days, he fought like a man who had survived hell once and feared nothing. But the uprising was doomed. The Soviets watched from across the river, refusing to help, letting the Germans destroy the Polish resistance. By October, Witold's unit was out of ammunition, food, and options. They capitulated. Witold was taken as a POW and sent to a German camp. For the second time, he became a prisoner, but this time, he felt no fear. After Auschwitz, nothing frightened him. 3. Liberation and a new enemy. In 1945, Allied troops liberated the POW camp. Witold was free again. He returned to Warsaw, only to find his city destroyed, millions dead, and Poland now controlled by Soviet-backed communists. The new regime claimed to be liberators, but Witold knew better. He told friends, "I escaped one totalitarian regime, and returned to find another." He joined Poland's anti-communist underground, gathering intelligence on the new government's crimes, arrests, executions, deportation, secret prison, suppression of resistance veterans. He documented everything, planning to share it with the West. But this enemy was different. This one spoke Polish, this one lived in his homeland, and this one found him. 4. Betrayal. May 1947. Witold was lured into a trap by a supposed ally, a man who secretly worked for the communist secret police, UB. They arrested him brutally, dragging him into a basement interrogation chamber. The officer in charge smirked, "So this is the famous Pilecki, the men who escaped Auschwitz. Let us see if you escape us." For months, they tortured him, beating, sleep deprivation, starvation, psychological torment. But Witold refused to break. A guard once asked him, "How can you endure this?" Witold smiled through bloodied lips. "Auschwitz was worse." The guard stepped back, shaken. 5. The trial. In 1948, the communists staged a show trial. Witold stood before them, thin, bruised, but unbroken. He was accused of espionage, conspiracy, foreign collaboration, all lies. When the judge asked him for a final statement, Witold lifted his head proudly. "I have tried to live in such a way that in the hour of my death, I would feel joy rather than fear." The courtroom fell silent. He was sentenced to death. 6. The execution. May 25, 1948, Mokoto prison. Witold was taken to a basement. A guard whispered, "Forgive us, we know who you are." He placed a blindfold on Witold. Witold responded calmly, "I do not need it." His executioners hesitated. They were killing a hero, a man who had walked willingly into Auschwitz to expose genocide, fought Nazis, and now faced death with dignity. The shot rang out. Witold Pilecki fell. He was buried in an unmarked grave, location still unknown. The communists tried to erase him. They failed. History never forgets lions. Witold Pilecki, Part 3, The Hero the World Tried to Forget, Poland, 1950s, 1980s. 4 decades after his execution, Witold Pilecki became a ghost erased by fear. His name was forbidden, his actions were classified, his family was watched, his children were bullied in school and told, "Your father was a traitor." They knew the truth, but no one dared speak it. The communist regime hid his reports, silenced witnesses, destroyed documents. Poland's greatest hero was buried in darkness, but darkness cannot last forever. Point 1. The survivors remember even though the government tried to erase him. Survivors of Auschwitz whispered his name in private, old men meeting at kitchen tables, former underground fighters gathering in secret, people who had seen him inside the camp. They said, "He saved lives. He built the resistance. He kept our hope alive. He escaped to warn the world." They passed these stories on quietly, like smuggling embers of a fire through winter. In the ruins of post-war Europe, these whispers kept his memory alive. Point 2. The Iron Curtain cracks. In the 1980s, Poland began to change. The Solidarity movement rose, people demanded truth, secrets leaked. A historian discovered fragments of Pilecki's reports. A journalist found hidden trial documents, former prisoners came forward. A picture began to form, horrifying and magnificent. Point 1 night, a historian told a colleague, "We have executed the greatest hero of the century." The truth spread like wildfire. Point 3. 1989, the year of return. The communist regime collapsed in 1989. And with it fell the wall of silence around Witold Pilecki. Suddenly, his reports resurfaced. Eyewitnesses testified, scholars published books, newspapers printed headlines, "The bravest man you've never heard of." His daughter broke into tears when she saw his name honored publicly for the first time. "My father, finally free." 4. Recognition at last. In the following years, Polish Poland honored him as a national hero. Memorials, statues, documentaries, museums. His name became synonymous with courage. United States. The United States recognized his reports as foundational Holocaust documentation. Israel honored him as a righteous among the nations nominee, though not officially awarded due to not meeting bureaucratic criteria. Israeli historians call him one of the greatest friends of the Jewish people. UK British historians named him a hero of humanity. Some compared him to Schindler, others to Churchill. The European Parliament declared him a symbol of resistance against totalitarianism. Witold Pilecki became known worldwide as the volunteer for Auschwitz, the men who warned the world, the men who fought 2 tyrannies. Point 5. The reports speak. When his Auschwitz reports were fully published in the 2000s, historians were stunned. They read his words describing the first gas chambers, the extermination process, SS brutality, starvation, medical torture, slave labor, transports, arriving day-life organization of the underground resistance inside the camp. And they realized Pilecki documented genocide before the world even had a word for it. His writing was calm, factual, without hatred. He observed horror like a soldier, not a victim. A scholar remarked, "In a place where hope died, Pilecki created hope. That alone made him unique." Point 6. The search for his remains. Execution site at Mokoto prison contained mass graves, hundreds of victims. No names. For decades, archaeologists and historians searched for his bones. They sifted through soil, studying fragments of teeth, bones, buttons, fabric. No confirmation yet, but one day, they believe they will find him, and the moment they do, Poland will give him a hero's burial he always deserved. Point 7. His legacy today. Witold Pilecki is considered fire one of the greatest World War II heroes, fire one of the greatest resistance fighters in human history, fire one of the most morally courageous men ever documented. Schools teach his name, military academies study his reports, writers and filmmakers call him the real Captain America, but better, because he was real. His story is now part of humanity's conscience. Point 8. The final message. Shortly before his execution, Witold told a prison guard, "I tried to live my life in such a way that in the moment of death, I would feel joy, not fear." These words have become a symbol of ultimate courage, because Pilecki did not fight for glory. He did not fight for medals. He fought because evil existed, and someone had to stand against it.